Let's talk about Bolivia. It's home to the world's largest lithium reserves, the white gold that's supposed to power our entire electric future. So you'd think it would be a global powerhouse, right? But the reality is, it's not even close. Today, we're going to dive into exactly why that is. Okay, just look at these numbers. The difference is absolutely staggering. Chile is pumping out nearly 300,000 metric tons of lithium, Argentina about 70,000, and Bolivia a measly 2,000 tons. That's not just falling behind, that's like they're not even in the same race. And that begs a really big question. Why is a country that's literally sitting on $1 trillion treasure chest completely unable to cash in? Well, the answer isn't just simple politics or bad economics. No, it's a story about chemistry, technology, and a geopolitical trap that's closing in fast. To really understand the problem, we have to go underground, into these massive salt flats in Bolivia. Because the secret to this entire story, it's in the brine. So the lithium here isn't mined like you'd think from a rock. It's dissolved in this huge, salty liquid reservoir under the ground. The normal way to get it out is to just pump this brine up to the surface and let the sun evaporate all the water, leaving the lithium behind. Sounds simple, right? Well, yeah, but not in Bolivia. And here's the crucial difference. In a place like Chile, the brine is relatively pure. It has very little magnesium mixed in, which makes separating the lithium out easy and cheap. But Bolivia's brine, well, it's a chemical nightmare. It is just loaded with magnesium. This number, 18.6, is pretty much the heart of Bolivia's curse. For every 1 part lithium you find, there are almost 19 parts magnesium. And because magnesium and lithium are so chemically similar, trying to separate them using simple evaporation is like, I don't know, trying to remove one specific drop of rain from a bucket. It's just incredibly difficult and inefficient. And look, experts have known for years that the old ways just won't work in Bolivia. The country's greatest asset was basically locked away by its own unique chemistry. They had all this raw material, but they just didn't have the key to unlock it. Until, that is, a new player arrived with a very specific one. So, blocked by its own geology, Bolivia was forced to start looking for partners who had moved beyond these old-school evaporation ponds and into the world of high-tech extraction. And that's when Chinese and Russian firms came knocking. Companies like CATL, the biggest EV battery maker in the world, by the way, came to the table with a revolutionary technology: Direct Lithium Extraction, or DLE. The easiest way to think about it is like a super advanced chemical filter, designed for one thing and one thing only. On paper, DLE is a miracle worker. The Bolivian government, well, they were highlighting all these incredible benefits. You can recover over 80% of the lithium, which is way better than the 30% you get from ponds. And they claimed it was more environmentally friendly. It really did look like the perfect solution. But this perfect solution, it came with a hidden cost, a big one. And this is where the whole story pivots, because the very technology that promised to liberate Bolivia's wealth might actually be the very thing that ensnares it for good. Okay, so here's the trap in 3 simple steps. Bolivia owns step 1, the raw, pretty low-value brine. But China and Russia own step 2, the patented, high-tech DLE process. This is the choke point. This is where all the real value is created, transforming that useless brine into high-value battery-grade lithium. Put it this way, Bolivia might have the oil, but China owns the refinery. And that is the core of this whole technology trap. See, in the 21st century, power doesn't just come from owning the ground anymore. It comes from owning the intellectual property and the complex process you need to make that ground valuable. Bolivia is learning that lesson the hard way. And to solidify this control, these companies are investing a massive $2 billion. They're not just building the DLE plants, they're building all the roads and power infrastructure to support them. So this isn't just a business deal. They're building an entire ecosystem that's designed to lock Bolivia in. So naturally, a situation like this hasn't gone unnoticed. On the ground, in the arid highlands, and in the halls of government, a pretty serious backlash is brewing. You have local indigenous leaders raising the alarm. The official story is that DLE uses less water than those giant evaporation ponds, but these communities are terrified that the excessive use of fresh water required for the DLE process will drain their already scarce resources. So here you have these 2 competing stories. On one hand, the government and its partners are selling DLE as a green solution. On the other hand, local groups are warning it could spark a water war in a region that's already threatened by climate change. And they're looking at things like groundwater depletion in neighboring Chile as a very grim warning of what could come. All this local resistance has fueled a political firestorm. So as we head into late 2025, you see this new president, Rodrigo Paz, rise up on promises to review these massive deals, demanding more transparency and a much better outcome for Bolivia. And this conflict is already boiling over. Throughout 2025, you can just see this rapid escalation, from warnings to protests to the courtroom. I mean, at one point, a judge even suspended the projects, but that ruling was overturned just days later. The tension is real, and it shows a massive divide between the government's plans and the people who actually live there. So all of this leaves the new government in an incredibly difficult position. Can they renegotiate these deals? Can they actually break free from the trap? And here's the risk. This quote from a potential American partner really says it all. If Bolivia's new leadership just tears up the contracts with China and Russia, they could scare away all foreign investment for years to come. And that includes from Western partners who might have offered a better deal. It's a true catch-22. If the new president keeps the deals, he basically accepts a future where Bolivia is just a raw material provider, and the real profits and power flow to whoever owns the technology. But if he annuls them, he risks turning Bolivia into an international pariah, a place seen as too politically unstable to invest in. There are just no easy answers here. Which leaves us with a final, much broader question. As we all race to build a sustainable future, we need resources like lithium more than ever before. But what happens when the keys to unlock those resources are patented, privately owned technologies? Is this the new face of global power dynamics? A new kind of colonialism? One written not in laws of conquest, but in lines of code and chemical formulas? It's definitely something to think about.